Not sure how I'm supposed to walk. I thought the music would keep playing, so I'd have a little more runway to get into it with you. I thought you guys would all be on your feet with that. So glad you're here at church. My name is Monyé. I'm one of the pastors here at the church and really encouraged to continue in our series, Bigger Than Us. If you have one of these booklets, which everybody should have, if you don't have one, you can pick one up after the service from our ushers or out in the lobby where you'll see displays and things that are going on. If you do have it, turn to page 65. That's where you can take notes on all the incredible things I'm about to say that'll blow your mind, transform your souls, and guide you unto Jesus like you've never been led there before. Yeah, it's going to be that good, all right? So step up, step in. But this book is so important for us because more than just a guide for Sundays, it's a guide for throughout your week, just to remind you what you're doing, because you may have forgotten and you're 2 to 3 weeks in now and you're saying like, oh man, I've put this thing on a shelf somewhere. It's collecting dust. It's in my pile that we all have somewhere in our house, probably on the kitchen counter, taking up too much room, and you haven't touched it. Well, there's a lot of great discipleship work in there for your soul. Like this is deeper work where it's asking us to go into ourselves and into Jesus, into space, and just actually think and meditate and work through deeper questions of our practice and saying maybe God's calling us to something more. Maybe he's calling us to a mission. That's what we're going to focus on today, a mission that is bigger than us, that he's calling us into something that is so significant, our lives will never be able to grasp the scope of what he's doing through us. And so it helps us to posture our life in a place before God where all of the things that we carry, all of the things that we desire, all of the things that he's entrusted to us for us to steward into the world, all of those things are now placed back into his hands in a humble and trusting way so that we can grow to be more like Jesus, because that's the point. And we believe here at Village Church that God has a specific mission and vision for us at our church to reach the whole of Canada with the good news of Jesus. I love Canada. I was born in Fredericton, New Brunswick. Grew up in a place called Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia. Amazing place, unfortunate name. Grew up then in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Moved from Winnipeg back to Lower Sackville. It was that good. And then moved all the way back to Winnipeg and now all the way to the west coast of Canada where I'm raising my babies, and I hope God never calls me out of this space. We drove to Chilliwack yesterday. I don't spend enough time in Chilliwack. The smell I could go do without. If you're not familiar, it is like a farming town. I'm talking like, I don't know if it's manure season or if that's all the time in Chilliwack, but every time I've been there, it's the same smell. I couldn't live in it. But it's beautiful. And so, like, you think of what God might do through us for the nation of Canada. It's an urgent mission. There are people in the world who need to know Jesus who don't. People who are driving by wherever you're meeting right now, who every day are driving by and they're going to end up dying and going to hell without the gift of God's grace in their lives. But we have the opportunity to be part of something that isn't just this insular, like, great community vibe. No, we can do great community and be radically on mission with Jesus in the world to see his kingdom grown and see the gates of hell pushed back and redirect traffic from people who might be heading there. That's something we get to be part of. And what's really cool about this process is it guides you to help you in some significant ways in your life there. Some of us, we might think devotional or times in devotionals or this kind of deep work is something that doesn't appeal to us. Can I make a plea to you to try it and just see what the Spirit of God might do in your life with it? It is profound how real action creates real change. Sometimes the discipline we have, right? The self-control we have, the focus we have that we put into spiritual disciplines and practices grow us to be more like Jesus and will change the deeper parts of who we are, and that's what you're invited into. But one thing I love is not even just us, also the kids, like Village Kids. We have hundreds and hundreds of kids who come see us every week, and they are also getting a guidebook to help shape their souls. I think of my son Beckham. He's 4 years old, and we had this moment, and it's interesting because it mirrors another moment I had with my first son. Like, it's amazing when you have 4 sons. There's so many of these beautiful little repeat moments. Like, they're very different, but they're also very the same. Like, so you go through it with a little less anxiety the fourth time. You feel like you know what you're doing. But as we're driving, and we live in a city where there's often panhandlers on the corners of the streets, right in front of the sign that says it's unsafe, you know, and they're panhandlers asking for money, people who need it. And my son Beckham, he has that childlike scope of money where it's like a toonie may as well be like $100 bill. Right? Like that toonie, it not only looks cool, like, man, I have a toonie? Like, Dad, if we go to the candy store, like, can I spend this? Like, what can I do with it? And then he has grander scopes of what it can accomplish. I'm like, bro, it's only a toonie, chill. But he comes to this place, he said, Daddy, what's that person asking for? I said, this person asking for money. He says, well, I have a toonie. And me being a probation officer wants to go through the whole list of why we shouldn't just give money directly to people. Son, can I tell you what crank is? You know, there might be something here. Like, I go into this place, well, there's probably a better way where we can actually pass this to an organization. But is that the goal of me as a dad in my child's life? To take moments and yes, to actually help him to understand the world, but when he's having a moment of generosity where his little soul is saying, I'm gonna let go of something that is so valuable for me to give to this person, the right thing for me to do as a dad is to say, that's a good thing for my son's soul to experience. Generosity like that is a good thing for my son to engage with and to experience and know, because that's a marker that I want in his life. Why? Because that's a marker that Jesus has in his life, and he asks us to live like that. If we think of the incredible generosity of God, I want to take you to the Genesis story, but in chapter 12. This is just God with Abram. And now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing, and I will bless those who bless you. And him who dishonors you, I will curse. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Just let me read it one more time. And let me accentuate the agent of work in this story. Listen to God's initiating posture to humanity who has disobeyed him and walked far from him. God's initiating grace-filled posture to humankind who has separated, created a rift between the relationship of God and his own creation. A God who is in perfect community with he, the Father, and the Son, needing no further relationship to be happy, no further relationship to be fulfilled, no further relationship to have any sort of greater value of his experience of the universe or his experience of anything in all of creation, yet desires to love us. I read it again. Now the Lord said to Abraham, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and whom dishonors you, I will curse. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Do you see God's initiating work at the hand of what he's doing through Abraham? This is important because if we're going to learn what it means to be part of a mission that is bigger than us, we need to recognize we are not connecting into a vision and a mission that is ours that we want to achieve. We are connecting into a mission and a vision that is God's that he has for the world. This is God's mission that he's inviting us to be part of. The church simply doesn't have a mission. No, the mission of God has a church. The church doesn't have a mission. The mission of God has a church. And he chooses us to actually be part of his initiating and saving grace throughout the world. He invites us to be participant in it, and he initiates the same way he sent his son Jesus to live a perfect life, die a death in our place for our sin, but 3 days later, rise back from the dead for our salvation, coming back to life and giving us hope. And before he departs us, I'm going to send the Spirit of God to actually live in you, to be with you, to help you along in this mission, my mission in the world. And it's powerful to see then how the church has changed and how we now, in scope of the Spirit of God being available and living in each of every one of us who gives our lives to Jesus, we now get an opportunity to live differently and empowered in a different way. Because this is God's mission, not ours. We are connected to what God would like to do in the world. What God wills for people to know and love and trust and follow him, we get to participate and practice and partner in that, which is just absolutely amazing. Now, we might feel like we're going to fumble around and miss it, and we will. But we can trust that if it's God's mission, he is going to bring it to completion. I think of a thing, I've actually shared this story one time before where pastoral visits, we do a lot of those as pastors. We get to be part of these things that are going on in people's lives. We get invited to moments that can be really hard. And so I was invited one time to a friend's, to the hospital where my friend's mom was passing away. And now I knew her story, and I knew her sight had left her. She was blind at this point. She was in the hospital and seemingly going to pass. And they invited me in, and one of the things I learned in seminary is, hey, when you go to a pastoral visit, it's important for you to leave something behind. Like, just in case the person's out of it, or like they're not really there, or maybe for the relatives, like just you leave something there, just as a, hey, I've been here, I've been with you, I'm available, my number's on, all that kind of thing. And so I thought, what a great thing. I got these like books that that are really great that I'm trying to get rid of. And so I took a book and I wrote an inscription in the front of it, and I said, oh, I just know you must be going through such an incredibly hard time. My prayers are with you, and I hope this book, as you read it, is comfort to you. And so I went into the hospital room, And I gave this woman sitting on the bed the book, and I said, I just think this might be a great resource and a help and an encouragement to you. To which her husband reminded me, she's blind. She can't read that. And I said, yeah, I know, but maybe one of you can read it to her. Well, it's interesting because her son picked up that book and did read some to her. And then her son continued to read that book, and ultimately a son who was far from Jesus gave his life to Jesus. Yeah. That son who gave his life to Jesus fully, actually then God got engaged, and I reached out to me to do their premarital counseling under the authority of Jesus. That married couple under the authority of Jesus had a baby and asked me to dedicate their baby in the name of Jesus. That man who gave his life to Jesus asked me to baptize him in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Like, how crazy, this is God, like, I gave a book to a blind lady, and the Spirit of the Lord moved in a way that I could not have anticipated, and he had a plan beyond my plan. His mission was greater than my mission. My mission was to go bring some comfort. His mission was to save a soul. And that's the God we worship. That's the God we partner with, is that God has things that he wants to do with us that we could not maybe do or even see ourselves. And this is why this mission that is bigger than us is bigger than us in every single scope of the way you could appreciate and enter into it. It's bigger than us practically in our mindset of where the vision could be, people we know and people we don't, people of generations past and generations future, but even in our time frame. You know how God kind of chose for like all 8-point-something billion of us right now on this planet to be the ones right now to carry it and be in it together? Like, it's pretty wild. It's pretty amazing. Of all of time, we get to be friends? Y'all feeling that? Like, it's really special. And it's wild, and we're messy, and we're messed up, but it's like, what a unique thing to be part of. And then in this time, he invites us to be part of his mission. He invites us to be part of his mission in a radical way, to care for and serve people that we don't even know. It's interesting, in Matthew chapter 28, verses 18 to 20, it reads this, "And Jesus came to them and said, 'All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age.'" You see, as John Stott says, we must be global Christians with a global vision because our God is a global God. You might wonder, why do we spend money? Why has over $7 million been spent throughout the history of Village Church to places that we may never go, for people we may never see, for initiatives we may never participate in or get to experience the pushback or the benefit? It just feels like a strange ROI, doesn't it? Who was that for? I don't know. What was it for? The mission of Jesus. In what way? It's going to help people. And you end up giving and prospering and working and serving. So we have all these global initiatives of places that you and I will barely ever get to go to, if at all. And yet, we know and trust that God is doing things there that we could never imagine. That it's a trustworthy pursuit to love the nation. When Jesus says, go to all nations, make disciples of all nations. He's not just talking about some nations. Say it with me. He's talking about all nations. Everyone, everywhere. Hallelujah. It's like this is something significant. That we are, it's so much bigger than us. And so it will be, even as we have this opportunity to create a national ministry center initiative that will serve all of Canada, and Canada being the mosaic it is with the nations coming to it. We have an opportunity across our country to reach all nations, but a vision that goes globally beyond its walls. And so from this ministry center, like I think of anybody who's out here at the Bell Center in your space, yeah, at one point you guys are going to move into that building. But from that building, the work for the nations will take place so that more people around the globe will come to know and follow and trust Jesus with their lives. And that's a mission that is so beyond us because it's not just for the 8-point-something billion that are on the planet now that we participate with. It's for generations to come. It's the ones we don't know. Like my wife and I, we pray for our daughters-in-law because we got 4 boys. We chased down that girl until my wife tapped out and said, "No more. I can't do it." I said, "How about we adopt?" She said, "No. Not for now," she said. So she's telling me there's a chance. But it's interesting because I I pray for these girls I don't know. I'm trying to raise my boys to be great men for girls I don't know. Why? Because they're going to end up loving on and creating my grandchildren, who I hope to know, and I hope to get to snuggle. Because I'm out of baby season now, and I tell you, baby fever hits hard when you step out of it. Like every baby in the congregation, I just want to see him and smell him, you know? Might be weird. It is weird. Not that it might be weird, it's very weird. But what's beautiful is that the work that we're doing, if you look at it just as a sense of, oh, we're building a building, yeah, it's not. That kind of feels like a shallow mission, doesn't it? Shallow vision. But you understand what that building in space allows us to accomplish, not just for the ministering of ourselves and our kids, but for kids we'll never meet, for families we haven't met yet, for friends and relationships we want to lean into. And so to get the scope that this mission is bigger than us is so important to us, because it's not about us and it never has been. Your life simply isn't for you. The God of the Bible wants to do something through you that is so much more than you could ever imagine. And not only will his purpose in your life fulfill you in that purpose drive that you're feeling, but it's actually going to help you to be in line and be transformed into more like Jesus. You see, the mission of the world is so crucial. In Romans 10, it says, "For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. How then will they call on him if they have not believed? And how are they to believe in him whom they have not heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching? And how are they to preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news." It's interesting. One thing I'm trying to instill in my life more is quiet time. Quiet is like the antithesis to my life. Like it doesn't settle. Like my brain goes fast and thinks a lot. I talk fast and think a lot. I love experience. I love to go. Like quiet's like the opposite. But I've really been convicted recently to try and put quiet in my life. And so I took yesterday. It was Friday. Friday I took a drive and I went to this abbey in Mission. This abbey. And I'm like, monks barely talk. Monks don't talk, they hum and do this thing. And so I go to this lookout and I sit down and it's just me and I find a rock and I have the Bible and I'm reading through the book of Mark and I'm just sitting there just trying to hear from the Lord. And these two old ladies come down to the point. And I can hear them forever because they're taking a while to get there. Well, it also took them a while to leave. These two ladies wanted to know my life story, my testimony, how I met Jesus. They want to talk about the gripes they had with the old church, with things they had seen, with things they'd experienced through the England church and all these other things, and how they've stepped away from religion, but they can still be, and how they believe God is like an energy. And so like, here I am. There's nothing more I want than this time I've dedicated in quiet to the Lord. But I'm seeing an opportunity to share and preach the gospel to two people who desperately need to hear the good news of Jesus in a different way. And so we have this conversation, a really long one. We talk and shake hands. I tell them about Village. I show them pictures of like the church because they're like, "What do you mean they have fun? What do you mean you don't have to dress up? What do you mean?" I'm like, "Just let me show you my church." Like, and so and they're excited. So they are going to be coming out. They said they wouldn't be here today, so I share the story openly, thinking they'll never see it. But it's interesting because like those two had a moment with me that I didn't anticipate. But I was in a place, even though it was the last thing I wanted to do, I was compelled by the Spirit to be part of his mission in that moment. And something unique happened. Because those two left, I continued my quiet time. I didn't know that they went back up to the regular grounds and sat down and had a picnic lunch. And they found me afterwards, and they said, "I just got to let you know, me and my sister felt so much lighter after talking to you. We can't really describe it." I said, "I can. Jesus is incredibly kind." And they said, "And so are you." And I said, "No, Jesus." And they said, "You." And I said, "Thank you." Because you come to a point where you realize the mission of Jesus is just ordinary people having real conversations about what they really believe in a patient way. I wasn't there debating all of our thoughts. I was just patiently being present with the good news of Christ. Why? Because that's what's the most appealing. You can set people in with rules and rules and rules, or you can like tell them, "Hey, this is where the water of life is. Come and drink." And invite people to a space, into a presence of God that will make them feel lighter. And that's something all of us can do, even if we don't believe it. Even if we don't believe it. Because Dallas Willard, as he says it is, he says that discipleship is the process of becoming who Jesus would be if he were you. I'll read that again. Discipleship is the process of becoming who Jesus would be if he were you. What would it look like if Jesus was in your context right now? What would you act like? Who would you spend time with? How would you involve others in your life? What would that whole process look like? Because a lot of us, even at that place of who we are, haven't taken those steps to consider what Jesus might want to do through us. How he might want to change us and make us more like him to the point that we do recognize and seem to be like Jesus would be if they were us. I think of it like when I was in junior high. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm like incredibly athletic. And in junior high, there was a basketball team, and our whole crew was just so excited about basketball, everything. So all my friends, so we had to try out for the team. There wasn't enough room for everybody, so we tried out, and I didn't make the team. I did learn a couple cool and one moves, but half of the time you're carrying the ball. You can't really use it in the game, all these things. But then, I ended up not making the team, but the coach liked me so much, and the players liked me so much, they said, hey, Chris, would you be our manager for the team? I said, yeah, absolutely. And so I got a jersey, and I got shorts, and I got some Converse, and I ended up getting a sweatsuit that I got to wear, and I got to feel cool, because I laid in a hotel room before our tournament, listening to 50 Cent, it's your birthday, we go and party, with dark lights, just amping ourselves up for the game. Maybe you've had a pregame moment like that. I tell you, it gets you ready, psyched, right? Because I was so ready just to take notes, on assistants and scores and everything, right? And I would sit on the bench, and in one of these tournaments, I'm sitting there on the bench, and we're up by a sizable amount, and my coach, Miss McKnight, she looks to me and says, Chris, it's your time to get on that court and play in that game. I said, are you serious? She said, Chris, get in that game. I said, okay. And I took off my sweats, making sure my shorts didn't come with them. And I kicked my thing, took off my sweater, and I got onto the court. At this point, we're playing, and the ball comes to me, and I can hear Miss McKnight in the background shouting. And when she shouted. I'm talking veins popped out, she got a little blood vessel would pop. She'd freak out and sweat. Anyway, she's just yelling, right? Shoot the ball! Shoot the ball! And I freak out and I pass the ball away. I'm not used to the court. My buddy looks at me, just passes the ball back like it's some sort of game. I'm just I look again, I have a shot. She's screaming, shoot the ball, Chris! Expletives are coming out. Shoot the ball! This whole thing's going nuts. Boom, pass the ball again. I pass it away. At this point, even the other team is not having it. They're let him shoot. Just hold, let him shoot. Let him shoot. Boom, get the ball, and they tell me to shoot, and finally I'm geared up, and I take the shot. Complete air ball, doesn't touch anything. No rim, no backboard. At this point, the other team's getting the rebound, hey, Ben, just try again. This one's yours, I believe it. Take it. Boom, shoot it off the rim, miss. Third one, finally get it in. Man, get it in, and Miss McKnight said, okay, Chris, off the court, great job. Here you go, here's your clipboard. So many of us, we sit on the side here in church with our clipboard. Yeah, that sermon, I don't know, was it biblically based? I don't know. Yeah, he didn't speak heresy, but was it the way I learned it back in my old church? No, probably not. Why is he wearing pants that are so tight? Why do they always wear black? I don't know. Was this a show? Look at all the lights. You sit on the bench and you're real comfortable being a manager to what God is doing through the church. But God's mission is for all of us, every one of us, with our gifts, passions, our experiences, our hopes, to actually get on the court and actually play in the game. Some of us have been spending way too much time on the bench, and it's time to step in and actually play. But what if I miss? Yeah, what if you miss? I miss. What if you miss? We miss. And we try again. But what if I give a blind lady a book? You think the Spirit isn't better and bigger and more able than we are? You think he hasn't, for every single move of Christian history, been using broken people in their misses to make good on what he has made a promise to the world of, that he will save it and redeem it? You think God can't make a way that you can't make a way through? Of course he can. God is all-powerful, all-incredible, all-knowing, and he is all-loving, and he's going to help other people know him. But he's inviting you to be part of the game to make it happen. And so this mission that's bigger than us, we have to get off the bench. We got to stop talking about what we like and don't like about church, and we got to be the church on mission in the world. So that people like my siblings, like my sibling-in-laws, like my mother-in-law, like people I love who don't know Jesus, come to know Jesus. Because I tell you, they ain't listening to my voice. So what do I need? Alternate voices. So her numbers, if you could just text her. No, I'm joking. But for real, we got to get in that way. We have to lean in to the mission. We have to all take a piece of this and understand we're part of this. The building isn't a building, it's a piece of a greater mission. And we're being invited in to be part of that greater mission. And when it comes to something as specific as, when we're talking about giving money to an opportunity, or we're talking about saying, hey man, we're asking all of us, me included, to think through and to pray through, like, what would it look like for us to commit over 3 years, a sizable piece of hard-earned income to something that we may never see and we may never experience, or that maybe we'll get on a Sunday, or who knows? We don't know God's time. Like, in all of it, to actually really step in and lean in. It may be difficult for us to understand what the purpose, or like, why would we do something like that? You see, and yet, the Bible, and it's on its own, when it comes to our wrestle with money, it talks openly about it a lot. It talks about the struggles we have, the closed-handedness, the way that we hold on to things like our toonies. We just hold on to things that we want because they're ours, and it gives us comfort. And the God of the universe is saying, hey, I gave that to you. I can also give you more. Not because you're giving, but just know, like, you'll never go without. God will be with you in the midst of what you do for all of your days, as he has. That what you've earned is not just simply yours from you earning it. God has given it to you for a purpose to be used. And he goes deeper to the soul, and he says, man, it's really hard. It's really hard for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle. And he says that after saying it's really hard for a rich person to get into heaven. Not because they're rich, but because the avenue and element of money and finances becomes such an untouchable place, it becomes a functional God in our lives. There is a way to be a good steward, open-handed to what God is calling you to do, and it's the deeper work that he calls you to. Listen to what it says in Timothy, 1 Timothy chapter 6. As for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. Generosity isn't a side project of the mission God has us on. It's actually primary to the mission. It's not, we don't give to make budgets or to make buildings, but we give out of this place of discipleship in our hearts to what Jesus is calling us to the mission that he has before us in the world. To transform lives we'll never see, to see transformation in lives we'll never know. And you know, it's powerful because there's stories of this happening, just generous people who have been generous with their time and with their resources that help us to get a perspective on really what can happen when we open up the floodgates of generosity in our church. I want to show you a video of my friends Matt and Colleen Peters. You might know Matt and Colleen. They've done some great work. They've served here at the Bell location for a very long time. They're now with our Vancouver location. My first time meeting Matt, he was in a Village Kids shirt sitting on the ground, caring for kids that weren't his, and those kids were not acting well. He's a sweet man. But why don't we listen to some of their experience with the global mission that Village Church engages with?
We have had some really neat experiences with Kawasha. We've been able to go to Uganda, and every time we go, we see progression in what the impact of Village has been in that ministry. When we first went, probably just 8 years ago, we had a clinic. The clinic was overwhelmed with the need that was in that area. And through Village, we were able to build a hospital there. And just when we were there, just a couple of months ago, we were able to visit the maternity ward and hold a little baby that was born, and just to see the excitement in the community, and it was full of people lined up, and their needs are met, and it changes a whole community.
This was actually all the folks of Village who came together and actually said, we want to make a difference. The impact is beyond anything that you can really imagine unless you actually get to walk there and see it. It was incredible. When you think about sort of how partnering with some of these global and local missions has sort of shaped our own faith, there's no better connection, translation into sort of taking care of the widows and orphans than being in a place where you could not imagine people that are more desperate for somebody to come alongside them and care for them. And so seeing the church in action, caring for these kids that nobody else is going to care for. And it's that connection of sort of our faith and something so tangible as that it's an incredible experience. Not everybody has the privilege of sort of being able to go to Uganda and see this in person. And this is what's so neat about sort of these global partnerships. Village provides this sort of, here are some great partners that we've vetted and validated. And we want the folks that come to Village to connect directly with these organizations.
We've seen it in action, and it's really true.
One of the things that gets us really excited about the Ministry Center is that the Ministry Center isn't just another office. Being able to serve, function as a hub for many things going on, both locally and actually globally. For us, when we translate this as something that Village is not just doing for Village, this is something that we're doing as part of the broader sort of faith community, Christian community that we're involved in. Yeah, how do we actually sacrifice and push ourselves knowing that the impact is amplified? The impact from what's coming through the Ministry Center is going to be extended into places that are dear to our heart, like in Uganda or Nepal, or these other places that IGM and these other ministries operate. It's going to extend beyond what we're doing again on Sunday into the schools that are local here and things like that. And it's such a privilege for us to think about being part of it.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity that we're very excited about.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible just to see the continued work of Jesus through the things we've invested in? And it's amazing to get an update on that. But I want to give you even more than that. I've invited a friend here today. He was a little reluctant to come, but I pulled his arm. Would you help me in welcoming Senior Pastor Jeremy Johnson to the stage? Come on, Jeremy, get out here. Come on.
Reluctant. I don't know about that, Chris. Yes, happy to be here with you.
Thank you. So glad you're here, bro. Listen, why I invited Jeremy was this, because Jeremy, in his role, has had an opportunity the last few years to be involved in a lot of our global partnerships, a lot of the things that we as a church are investing in, that he's been able to see what updates are about and what's happening in the world and be on the ground in some of these spaces. And so I thought, it'd be so cool to just hear from you, Jer, on some of the things that are happening in the places you've been, some of the change you've noticed, some of the things we can be excited about. So would you just take a few minutes and share with us some of the things?
Yeah, you bet. I'm excited to do this because, like Matt said in the video, we don't all get a chance to go out to the field to see the impact that Village Church is actually making in the world. But I want to let you know, I love that quote you shared, that Dallas Willard quote. As we, as a church, each of you, me, are becoming more and more like Jesus, like he would be if he were us. We are seeing unbelievable impact around the world through our ministry. And I want to just give you a snapshot, maybe, of a glimpse into a tiny piece of the impact that we're having, the scope of it, and a potential for the impact. So I've been on a couple trips this year.
Yeah.
I was actually in Uganda with Matt and Colleen, who were on the video. This was earlier this year. And to see the impact of not only capital investments that Village Church has made, the ongoing partnerships of the people, the community of Village Church, it's remarkable. Wow. I got to tour, I'm going to tell you just about one thing, but I got to tour schools that are reaching thousands of kids. Wow. Church stuff, it's crazy. But the thing that stands out to me was we toured this hospital clinic that they talked about in the video. And just to give you a little background on this, in this area of Uganda, this is like ground zero for the HIV epidemic. So one of the pieces of this hospital that we built, okay, was this birthing maternity ward. And the reason this is so crucial is because in that area, when babies are born, they often are passed along HIV. Unless, of course, they have a proper birthing clinic in the community that can do things properly so that they stop that from happening. Wow. That birthing clinic, even today, it's not that old. Yeah. It's servicing a baby a day.
Oh, wow.
Hundreds of babies every year right now are being born in that community who are not contracting HIV because of one piece of one hospital that we built.
Incredible.
Just
man.
think
God
about the
is good.
legacy
Yeah.
of what that impact might be for years and years and years. That's like 1% of the global work we're doing around the world, right? An amazing organization, Kwasha. Another trip I was on, just got back from India.
Yeah.
And so I was in India with the team because we are looking at both the 10 years that we've been partnering with International Justice Mission in that country, and also looking at new opportunities in the neighboring country of Bangladesh. And so we were there and we got to sit in a room and meet the people who have been involved directly with two major projects Village Church has been a part of in the country of India. One of them was in the south, in the city of Chennai, where we funded work to stop the problem of bonded labor slavery. This is people who are just caught in a system of not being able to get out of basically being modern-day slaves, making bricks, doing these sorts of things. And they reported, of course, in the meeting that they're ending the work in that province because they've reduced the rates of bonded slavery and working with the government, changing the systems, changing the judicial system, changing everything to virtually nothing.
Wow.
And the problem has been eradicated from the province, and now they want to take what they've learned and how they've done that, and they want to use that in the other provinces around the country so that maybe the entire country of India will actually be able to defeat this issue of bonded labor slavery for over 1 billion people, like in this country. It's huge. The problem's a huge issue. We are a huge part of funding and making that possible for a province in a country like that to actually see this kind of change. It's incredible.
Come on.
That was one report. The other report was in the city of Kolkata where we were, where they talked about our ongoing partnership around minors in the brothel system, minors in the sex industry in the city of Kolkata. And they had a third-party audit there. They were talking us through kind of the project, and they're concluding that project in Kolkata because they've reduced minors in the brothel system in Kolkata to 0.
Come on.
They don't exist.
Dude.
So think about, like, sometimes it's like, okay, just think about the one kid that we have now saved from that, but it's not that. The scope of impact is so huge. It's like generations of kids have been saved out of that oppression because of the faithfulness of you, of us, partnering with projects like this. I want to read you a quote because IJM actually sent me a quote because they're so blown away by you, by our church, and others around the world actually are too. And I want to read you this quote. This is from one of the directors of IJM, just talking about the scope of impact, but also the scope of, how do I say this? There's an impact we have directly when we do the work, right? When we partner with the work on the ground. There's another kind of scope of impact maybe you don't understand as part of Village Church, which is the impact on the church, on the Canadian church. And what these organizations are finding is that Village Church is not only having a huge impact on the ground, it's a huge impact in the Canadian church scene to mobilize the Canadian church for these things along with us. So let me just read you this quote. He says, as if partnering with IJM India over a decade to drastically reduce child sex trafficking in Kolkata and labor trafficking in Tamil Nadu, that's the Chennai province, wasn't inspiring enough, Village Church is now spearheading a movement of Canadian churches to partner with IJM in breaking ground in new countries with tremendous need like Bangladesh. IJM teams all over the world regularly reach out to IJM Canada to say, we wish we had a national partner like Village Church. These are the offices all around the world with one of the greatest justice organizations that exists, jealous of the Canadian office for what they have with you. We wish we had a national church partner like Village Church. One of the largest churches in Saskatoon recently jumped on board IJM's work because they were directly inspired by Village Church's impact in India with IJM. Over the next few years, I believe we will see hundreds of churches all across Canada jumping into IJM's work because of Village Church's direct leadership in the Canadian church. He goes on to say, IJM Bangladesh is IJM's newest country office, and our preliminary investigations show us that up to 50% of women in the Bangladeshi sex trade are minors. Just think about that number for a sec. 50% of women in the Bangladeshi sex trade are minors, with our investigators being offered minors as little as 9 years old.
Oh my gosh.
The good news, however, is that the successful justice system transformation that Village has helped us prove in Kolkata A model that reduced child sex trafficking by 80% with 0 minors found in brothels can now be adapted for Bangladesh. Wow. I have no doubt that Village's generosity and efforts across the Canadian church will lead to a significant surge of resources for IJM Bangladesh. We saw God do something unbelievable through our partnership with Village Church in India over the last decade. I can't wait to see what God does in Bangladesh through Village Church over just the next few years.
Come on.
And this isn't like trying to show off or like, we're proud of ourselves.
Right.
But I am proud. I am proud of this church. Like, think about the scope of impact that we are having, that you are having. I think it's okay to be proud that we actually are living lives into the world that look like Jesus' life.
Well, there's something in it too where it's like you see that and you can have the perspective of, look at what we've done, or you can say, let's go, let's do it again. It's possible. Like, it's possible that we can actually end human trafficking of minors in major cities around the world because of what we can do together. Yeah. I mean, that jacks me up. That jacks me up. Yeah, totally. So, Jared, also, just in a minute, wanted to also hear about some stuff that's been going on in the realm of church planting, because these organizations, everything that we do is tied into gospel work, all of it. But I do want to hear a little bit about what's been going on in Cuba, if you don't mind updating us.
Yeah, I'll keep it really quick. So I was in Cuba in the fall. Cuba is one of the hardest places in the world to do ministry, to do any of this. But in that crazy situation, the gospel is exploding. Churches are exploding. But they have a major problem in Cuba, which is you can't just build big churches. You actually have to have them in homes, basically, which then max out at like 50 to 100 people, and then you need to have another one. And so it puts a huge strain on pastors. You have to have enough pastors trained to be able to keep planting all of these house churches fast enough for the people, because the people are being reached. It's crazy there right now. So I was able to go down there and see some of the work we're partnering with and actually do some training of pastors myself, which is amazing. So like, there's a dream here that it's possible. Like, it's possible that a country could be transformed with the gospel, a country like Cuba, through the work that we're doing. And why do I say it's possible? Because I see glimpses of this. I got up on this stage in the fall to Surrey, and I just said, hey, I just got back from Cuba. We have a need. We got to buy a house for a pastor because they're in this horrible situation. They can't even do their house church. We need a house down the street. And we need a bunch of generators because the power is going out all the time, rolling blackouts, and they're in a service like this, and the power just goes out for the rest of the service, and they got to figure it out. Or they're doing food service, and the power goes out, and they got to figure it out. I said, what if we could just buy generators for a bunch of these churches? So I just said that at Surrey, and I had people lined up coming to me saying, buy the house. I'll send you a check tomorrow. Buy the house. I'll send the check. Buy the generators. So we raised the money, and we got all the stuff for the Cuban churches, and we did it like in a day. So I just go, in a little moment like that, we could do that and change so many lives. What is possible if we actually understand the scope of vision that God has called us to peculiarly, like specifically as a church, uniquely as Village Church? Anything is possible.
Come on. Well, guys, let's thank Jeremy Johnson for sharing some great updates. Jared, thank you so much, brother. I love you. What could be possible? Listen to Revelation 7, 9-10. This is what John had as a vision. After this I looked, and behold, a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes with palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, "Salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb." It's interesting to picture a vision like that from the outside. And yet this is the reality that one day, if you believe and follow Jesus, you will be part of. You will be part of that uncountable number. You will be part of that nation upon nation, language upon language, standing before the throne. It's like the most epic worship service you could possibly imagine. And you're right in the thick of it. The mission God has a beautiful conclusion here, where all the nations of the world, all the languages of the earth, all the different spaces, a multitude so great that cannot be counted, is in one space worshiping the one who is worthy of the whole universe's worship. There will be a moment in time where that happens. The mission we have before us is set upon the good news of Jesus as the foundation, the Word of God as our truth, the Spirit of the Lord in us, empowering us to go and to do work like Jeremy was talking about, like Matt and Colleen were talking about, that is engaging and reaching nations around the world, but also all of the nations throughout Canada. This National Ministry Center initiative is simply one thing that is part of the much bigger mission that God has invited us to. It really is bigger than us, but it takes us to get off the bench, step into the game, and be part of what God is calling us to in this season. I want to pray for you in the midst of that. Would you bow your heads, close your eyes, don't be distracted. Jesus, we are so grateful for the opportunity you have given us. The opportunity you've given us to be part of what you're doing in the world. In this moment in time, Spirit, would you meet with us as we seek to meet with you, as we discern what it would look like for us to give. For the word tells us that you love a cheerful giver. So don't let us just be caught up in any sort of feeling help us be discernment-filled, cheerful givers who feel like we've met with you and can confidently say, yeah, it's generous what I'm giving, but I give because of the generosity of a God who gave first. I give because of the generosity of a God who went before me, who died in my place, who rose for my salvation, who empowers me to now not do just what I want to do, but to live in line with what He would want to do through me. So God, we submit ourselves to this process and to you. At the deepest discipleship level, we say, Lord, change our hearts in this moment. Transform our minds. Use our strength. Help us to fall more in love with you. Help us to meet with you in a powerful way where everything else in the world looks so dim and you so valuable as we set our eyes and practice on you, Jesus. We pray this in your beautiful name as we worship you. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us today online, where we investigated a mission that is bigger than us. We recognize that it's not that the church has a mission, but the mission has a church. God has been redeeming and doing this initiating plan for the whole of humanity, and He invites us to be part of it. If you wanted to step in more into that mission, there's a few ways you can do it. One, you can connect with a community group. Head online and find a local congregation close to you. Get into a community group. Two, you can actually invest in what God is doing with this campaign Bigger Than Us, as we build and create a national ministry center that we believe is going to impact Canada and the world. We're so glad you joined us today and hope to see you again next time.